Have you ever agreed to doing something and didn't? Have you ever said you would do something, whether it's with your wife or maybe it's with your boss, and you didn't follow through on it? Today, we're going to be talking about the importance of keeping agreements. My name is Linda G. Robert. I am your Back in the Groove Again coach, and I'm here to help you live your best life now so that you can love it, so that you can just love your life. So let's get going. Here's a couple of examples of agreements that maybe you've done them in the past. Perhaps you've agreed to meet your wife for lunch at a certain time. That's one agreement. Maybe you did promise a friend that you would help them with a favor they've asked you to do. Maybe you've decided to, really commit to a regular exercise regime. Maybe you've agreed to keep confidential information private. So these are all different types of agreements. There's, of course, when we don't keep the agreement, for example, canceling plans with a friend at the last minute for no reason, really. And maybe you don't even call them to tell them that you're canceling plans. Maybe you've missed project deadlines or you failed to deliver promised work. Maybe you've not followed through on helping your friends out. So these are, examples that you've agreed to things in the past, but that you didn't keep. One more example would be to consistently neglect doing the exercise regime that you said you were going to do. So it's one thing to agree to doing something, to have a set of agreements that you want to show to people that you're trustworthy. And it's another thing to not follow through on that agreement. And no matter how big or how small that agreement is, once you break an agreement with someone, whether it's your wife, your husband, your coworker, something happens. And that's what we're going to talk about next. What are some of the consequences of not following through or not following through? And I want to add that they're not just agreements that you've made with other people or for other people. We're talking about any agreements, including agreements that you've made to yourself. Maybe you said, yeah, I really need to start exercising and I'm going to start doing that at least 3 times a week. Maybe you didn't tell anybody else about it. If you do not follow through even with the agreements that you made to yourself, we're talking about those agreements as well. All right. Obviously, when we break agreements, whether it's all the time or even the one time, there's a price to pay for that. And so these are examples of the price that you pay when you're not keeping your agreements. You lose trust. People will lose trust in you. You might lose relationships over this. You might lose business. You might lose jobs. You might lose income. You might lose money. You might be tired, might get tired. You might lose energy as well. You might get confused. You might also lose integrity. You'll lose your power at some point. So obviously, keeping agreements is much better than saying that you're agreeing to do something and not following through with that, because there's a bigger loss when you don't keep your agreements. So here's a few tips to help you either to make fewer agreements or to keep the ones that you make. Number 1, make only agreements that you intend to keep. So, before you agree to doing something, think about it. Take a few minutes to think about it before you make that agreement. See if it's something you really want to do. And see if it's something that you can actually do and follow up on. How does your body feel about it? Because you don't want to make an agreement that you might have to break at some point. Another thing you want to do is maybe start writing these agreements down. Write down all the agreements that you make. Use a calendar. Use a daily planning tool of some sort. Maybe you could use your computer to record all the things that you've said you were going to do. And it's not difficult. For example, if you've booked an appointment at your doctor's, write it down on your day timer or on your Google Calendar. If you told your wife you were going to take her out for dinner on Thursday night, write it down. Don't rely on your memory, because sometimes our memory fails. And next thing you know, your wife is upset because you said we were going to go out for dinner and I got myself all dressed up and everything and you showed up late. Not good. So start writing down your agreements. You also want to review them regularly. For example, maybe you have agreed to doing several things during the week and you haven't written down all of these things. Well, you might remember some of them. Just using your memory, you might remember some of them, but if they're not written down and you don't review them regularly, then you might forget them, and that wouldn't be good for you either. One last tip that I could share with you is to communicate any broken agreement at the first opportunity that you have. As soon as you know that you're going to break an agreement, your car won't start, maybe there's traffic, maybe your child is sick and you have to break an agreement, then do something about it, right? You can call the person and say, listen, I know that we've agreed to meet at 1 o'clock, but my car just broke down and I won't be able to meet you at 1 o'clock. Can we reschedule, for example? So if you know ahead of time that you won't be able to make that commitment, then definitely communicate that to the person. That is taking full responsibility, for your actions. And maybe another thing to clarify is that you need to make sure you understand exactly what you're agreeing to doing. So you want to clarify that you have agreements with other people and what those agreements are. And sometimes it's as simple as saying, okay, so let's meet at 7 o'clock on Thursday at the Bamboo Gardens. That's the one that's located on Notre Dame Avenue. Because maybe there are several Bamboo Gardens restaurants in the city. And of course, you didn't clarify which one you were talking about. And it would be the same thing with your boss. If you're agreeing to completing a task by Friday at 12 o'clock, by 12 o'clock, I should say, then you want to make sure you know exactly what task you're agreeing to completing by Friday at 12 o'clock. All right. Well, I hope that helps you. Of course, these principles are all from the Jack Canfield's Success Principles book. I am training to be a Jack Canfield Success Principles trainer, and I'm looking forward to sharing more tips with you. This is Linda G. Robert. I'm your Back in the Groove Again coach, and I'm here to help you live your best life right now so you can love what you do. Stay tuned for more great videos. Have a great day now. Bye-bye.